For 3 years, my husband Daniel had a favorite joke. Whenever friends came over, he'd wrap an arm around my shoulder and laugh. So, everyone knows Emily has a mysterious past. People would chuckle. He'd continue. She refuses to tell anyone where she was from before moving here. Maybe she was in witness protection. Everyone laughed. I smiled. Because explaining the truth hurt more than pretending it was funny. The truth was simple. At 17, I became pregnant. I wasn't irresponsible. I wasn't reckless. I was a scared teenager abandoned by the boy who promised forever. My parents forced me to choose. Either leave home, or let a loving couple adopt my baby. I signed the papers with shaking hands. I kissed my newborn son once. Then I never saw him again. For 24 years. Only my closest friend knew. When Daniel and I started dating, I told him everything. He hugged me. "You were just a child," he whispered. "I'll never judge you." I believed him. I shouldn't have. After we married, something changed. Every disagreement somehow returned to my past. If you made better decisions when you were younger. You always keep secrets. No wonder your parents were disappointed. Little comments. Little cuts. They added up. Whenever I cried, he'd accuse me of being dramatic. "You should be grateful I accepted your baggage." Accepted. As though loving me had been charity. One Friday evening Daniel invited several co-workers for dinner. I spent the entire day cooking. Lasagna. Garlic bread. Roasted vegetables. Homemade cheesecake. When everyone arrived, compliments filled the dining room. Daniel accepted every one. My wife finally did something right. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Out of habit. Halfway through dinner one of his co-workers asked how we'd met. Daniel smiled. "Oh, Emily has lived several lives." I froze. Here we go again. You know those teenage pregnancy stories people see on TV? The room became silent. Well. My heart dropped. He was actually doing this. He continued anyway. "Emily gave away a baby before she met me." Someone nearly dropped their fork. Another woman looked horrified. I stared at my plate. Daniel laughed. Imagine if the kid suddenly showed up one day calling her mom. Several guests looked uncomfortable. One woman quietly changed the subject. But the damage was done. After everyone left, I confronted him. "Why would you tell people something so personal?" He rolled his eyes. "It's just your past." "It isn't a joke. It happened 24 years ago. It still hurts." He shrugged. "Maybe if you dealt with your guilt instead of hiding from it." Something inside me cracked. "I trusted you. And I'm tired of pretending your mistakes define our marriage." My mistakes. Not ours. Mine. That night I slept in the guest room. The next morning he acted as though nothing had happened. By Sunday he expected breakfast. Monday flowers appeared. Tuesday he apologized. Sort of. "I'm sorry you got offended." Not. "I'm sorry I hurt you." I accepted the flowers. Not because I forgave him. Because I was exhausted. Life continued. Until 6 weeks later. Daniel's company hosted a charity gala. Spouses were invited. I almost didn't go. But skipping it would have created more questions. So I wore a navy blue dress. Smiled politely. Shook hands. Pretended everything was fine. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers. Executives mingled with donors. Daniel disappeared into conversations about promotions. I wandered toward the dessert table. That's when I noticed him. A young man. Maybe 25. Tall. Dark hair. Something about his eyes felt strangely familiar. He kept looking at me. Not rudely. Almost. Emotionally. I assumed I'd met him somewhere before. Then he started walking toward me. Each step seemed deliberate. My heartbeat sped up. He stopped only a few feet away. His eyes filled with tears. His lips trembled. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I know this is probably inappropriate." I nodded politely. It's okay. He swallowed hard. I've spent years wondering if I'd ever find you. My stomach tightened. Find me. He pulled a worn envelope from his jacket. Inside was an old photograph. A 17-year-old girl holding a newborn baby. Me. The only picture ever taken before the adoption. I couldn't breathe. I found this with my adoption papers. Everything around me disappeared. The music. The conversations. The laughter. Only his voice remained. I've been searching for you for almost 2 years. Tears blurred my vision. His own eyes overflowed. Then, in the quietest voice imaginable, he smiled through tears. Mom. The entire ballroom seemed to stop. And behind me, I heard Daniel's glass shatter against the marble floor. The sound of shattered glass echoed through the ballroom. Every conversation stopped. Daniel stood frozen a few feet away, staring at the young man in front of me. His face had turned completely pale. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. The young man looked terrified, as if he regretted saying that single word. Mom. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make a scene. Tears streamed down my face before I even realized I was crying. For 24 years, I had imagined this moment 1,000 different ways. Sometimes I dreamed he would hate me. Sometimes I imagined he would never want to meet me. Sometimes I convinced myself he had forgotten I ever existed. Never, not once, had I imagined he would look at me with kindness. What's your name? I whispered. He smiled nervously. Michael. The name hit me like another wave. His adoptive parents had changed his birth name, just as I had expected. The tiny baby I had kissed goodbye had become a grown man standing in front of me. I'm Michael Carter. His hands trembled as he held out the envelope. I don't expect anything from you. I didn't come here to blame you. I wanted to know if you were okay. Those words shattered the guilt I'd carried for nearly half my life. Instead of accusing me, he was worried about me. I reached out instinctively. He hesitated for only a second before taking my hand. The moment our fingers touched, both of us broke down. I wrapped my arms around him. He hugged me so tightly that I could barely breathe. The ballroom disappeared. There was no music. No guests. No speeches. Only a mother and son, separated by 24 years, finally finding each other. Around us, people quietly wiped away tears. Even strangers were crying. Daniel wasn't. He simply stared. For the first time since I'd known him, he had absolutely nothing to say. After several minutes, Michael stepped back and wiped his eyes. I should explain. I nodded. He smiled nervously. My parents were wonderful. Relief washed over me. They told me from the beginning that I was adopted. They never spoke badly about you. In fact, he laughed softly. My mom always said my birth mother must have loved me very much. My knees nearly gave out. Loved me. Not abandoned. Loved. Michael continued. When I turned 23, they gave me the adoption file. They said if I ever wanted to find you, they'd support me. So I hired a genealogist. It took almost 2 years. I found an old address. A marriage record. And finally this event guest list. He looked embarrassed. I know this probably sounds crazy. I wasn't even sure you'd want to meet me. I shook my head immediately. I've wanted this every single day. His eyes filled again. So have I. Daniel slowly walked toward us. His voice sounded unusually small. Emily. Neither of us looked at him. He cleared his throat. I didn't know. For the first time in years, I answered him calmly. No. You chose not to know. He looked down. I never thought. I interrupted. No. You never cared enough to think. The room was silent. Every one of his co-workers could hear us. The same people he'd mocked me in front of weeks earlier. One of the executives quietly walked away, giving us privacy. Daniel reached for my hand. I stepped back. His face fell. Emily, Please. No. You spent years making the worst day of my life into a joke. You laughed about the child I cried over every birthday. You called my pain baggage. You made me feel ashamed for surviving. He couldn't meet my eyes. I was wrong. You were cruel. Those words landed harder than any shout. Michael looked between us. I don't want to cause problems. I smiled through tears. You didn't. You revealed one. That night Michael and I sat together in a quiet coffee shop until nearly 2 a.m. We talked. About everything. His childhood. His first bicycle. His graduation. His favorite food. His adoptive parents. His career as an architect. He showed me pictures. Christmas mornings. Family vacations. College graduation. Wedding photos. Then he paused. I have someone I'd like you to meet. I looked up. My wife. I laughed. So I'm a mother-in-law. We both laughed through tears. N. He grinned. You also have a granddaughter. My hand flew to my mouth. You do. He pulled out another photo. A tiny little girl with curly dark hair smiled at the camera. Her name is Lily. I've told her that somewhere out there she has another grandma. Fresh tears rolled down my cheeks. I had lost 24 years. But maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to lose the future too. Over the next several months, Michael became part of my life. We met every weekend. We cooked together. Shared old photographs. Filled in 24 missing years. His adoptive parents invited me to dinner. I was terrified. Instead, they hugged me. His mother squeezed my hands. Thank you. I blinked. For what? For loving him enough to give him a life we couldn't imagine living without. I cried harder than I had in years. There was no jealousy. No resentment. Only gratitude. We had all loved the same boy. In different ways. Daniel, meanwhile, kept trying. Flowers. Letters. Apologies. Promises. I've changed. I understand now. I'll never joke again. But some wounds don't heal with apologies. They heal with distance. After months of counseling alone, I realized something. The day Michael called me Mom. Something inside me had finally healed. And something else had finally broken. My marriage. I filed for divorce. Daniel begged me to reconsider. I made mistakes. I nodded. So did I. He looked hopeful. You'll forgive me. I already have. His shoulders relaxed. Then I continued. But forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. He understood. Too late. A year later, I stood in a sunny backyard watching Lily chase bubbles across the grass. She suddenly ran toward me. Grandma. Without thinking, I scooped her into my arms. Michael smiled from across the yard. Our eyes met. Neither of us needed words. Life hadn't given us the years we lost. But it had given us today. And sometimes, today is enough. As the sun began to set, Michael wrapped one arm around his wife and another around me. Mom. Yes. I'm really glad I found you. I kissed his forehead, the way I'd dreamed of doing when he was only a baby. So am I. Across the street, I noticed a familiar figure sitting alone in a parked car. Daniel. For a brief moment, our eyes met. Then I looked away. Not with anger. Not with hatred. But with peace. Because the man who had mocked my past had become part of it. And the little boy I had never stopped loving had become my future. For 24 years, I believed I'd lost my greatest gift forever. It turned out. Love had simply been waiting for the right moment to find its way home.